Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Parlous, full of danger or risk. It says it's a synonym and a derivative of perilous, but it's by far not the preferred synonym. Perilous is used much more often. So I wrote a whole bunch of notes for Parlous and kind of settled on like making a different version of an existing game. So I'm just going to read what I wrote and where I kind of went with this, because I bounced around thinking this is so general, and I always get stuck on something so general because I don't have anything pushing me. That I need that second thing to push me to say, Parlous is also, a scoring system, something along those lines. So I wrote, from a gameplay side, I associate risk with the unknown, usually via randomness, like a scary die roll, for example, or a deck of cards that have good and bad items in there, or a one versus many or a GM/DM based game where somebody is sitting on like hidden scenario content that nobody else knows about, and they set up the conflict and the players just simply have to walk right into it. I started to look deeper into what causes danger or risk as well, just to see if that spurred anything, and I wrote, danger is essentially a threat that you're not equipped to stop. So if you're walking and a wild beast comes up to you, it's dangerous unless you are covered in armor and have a tool or weapon that could stop it or prevent it. In that case, being unequipped would be parlous. And then the second note is not having the skills to handle a situation. So you're walking and a big boulder comes rolling at you. You could have equipment, like a suit of armor that could help, or a vehicle or something along those lines. But instead of equipment, you could have skills. You could run really fast and get out of the way. But if you're not skilled in running, then you would be in that parlous scenario. So that's where I was thinking, and I still never got anything with that. You have a character that's stripped of their skills and their equipment, and they're thrown into a situation. Obviously, that is a scenario that could absolutely work. But I never got any further into it. So I started to think of a game. I also didn't get any further into this. That doesn't have danger, and see how you could inject danger into it. So like a puzzle building game or something like Carcassonne, where you're doing a tile laying map game that doesn't generally have danger, but if some of those tiles were very dangerous, then you'd run some problems and you'd start to inject it into it. So let's say you flip the tile, and in Carcassonne, the base game, all of them are good. You're building upon areas, and there is risk in I start to build here and somebody goes around it, but there's no like deep risk and danger in the actions and things like that. So let's say one of them had something that was really terrible, but the requirement on that was you had to attach it to something that you were building. That starts to make things dangerous, and you got to work around it and maybe build on top of it or things along those lines. I didn't get any further into that either, because I did get hooked on something that we were talking about. We have a button shy Slack where basically all the designers, some artists, and people that help development and things like that are all just talking about games and things like that. And big discussion this week was Fireball Island on Kickstarter, and the act of taking a large game and breaking it down to a small game, which is something we've tried to do intentionally in some cases, sometimes as a almost as a challenge, sometimes just it's part of a designer's goals is they like this game and they want something smaller. So we talked about making Fireball Island in just 18 cards. Someone said bring your own marble, which is great, but even with cards, the marbles are still just, there's nothing to guide them wherever they're going. So I started thinking about it deeper with cards only and how you would do it. So I'm just going to kind of read my thoughts on this and I thought more cards only than just 18 cards, because I feel like you're going to run out quickly. But the cards only, and instead of Fireball Island, let's just say Volcano Island is The volcano's erupting. You need to get off the island. Survive, right? Survive was a volcano erupting, I think, or the island erupting. So my thought was a real space game, and space meaning table space. The table is your island, and you're all trying to escape. If it's a round or a square table, you just set it in the center, and you got to get to the edge. But if it's a long table, you would maybe just you have to get to the long edges and not the short edges. So what I thought was starting in the center, or if with a long table, you probably want to get to one edge, or maybe even with the round ones. But for example, you're all trying to escape. Starting in the center, you'll use your path cards to move away from the volcanic center. You'll use obstruction cards as well to protect yourself on the way out. So if you knock down a tree behind you, you would put a card that's a knockdown tree, and that could it could shift the direction of incoming flames that are coming at you. When it comes time to unleash the terror on the island, you'll take a volcano card and give it a spin. So I imagine like you pick up a card a foot off the table and do a little twirl with it. You spin it. It's going to flop down, and eventually there's an arrow on it that's going to face in one direction. What I thought was the arrow would also have like guiding lines, like lines that go from the center to the edge, creating a range that's under a threat. So if you just imagine this area on the card that's like a cone-shaped range going off of the card. Now, that range is going to set the direction and the space that is under threat. So anything within that range. So let's say, I don't want to read, I'm just kind of saying I should be reading a little bit more of this. Okay, so the cards will dictate the path of the flames, and I thought if there should be an initiative system where each card has a number. So my tree that I knocked down has a number on it. Let's say it's a 12. My character has a number on it. Let's say it's a 1. And the crate that you knocked down over there on the other side, not knocked down, the crate that you placed as protection has a 5. So we got a 12, the tree, the 5 crate, and me as a 1. Let's say all three of them are in range. The flames are going to go towards the lowest number. They're going to magnet towards the lightest threat or whatever. So the flames are going to go towards me, the number 1. But let's say only the tree and the crate are in the range. It's going to go to the crate because it was a 5 and the tree was a 12. Anything that's hit is destroyed. So if it hits that crate, bam, it's gone. So the next one that comes down is either going to hit the 12 or hit my character, depending on where it's, if it's going in that direction. But let's say anything that hit is destroyed, but some of them have counter effects, like something that's like easy to place, like a crate. It's a 5. It's a low cost for however that system works. It might also have a downside where and this could also be good, where it pushes the flames in another direction. So it hits the crate, and then the flames keep going, and maybe that's going to now go towards my character, or it's going to go towards that tree, and it's going to knock that down. So I imagine some chaining going into effect. Also, some player interaction in the way that you're going to position things towards your opponents as they're trying to work their way down the island, and the flames as well. I said the flames could also have a threshold where it takes so many points of impact before it dies out, or maybe it takes a hit, flips over, and takes another hit, and then it's done. So it just keeps it going and keeps it so you're not just blocking it and then working your way down. It should all interact in a good way. That's it. That's pretty much where I went with it. I think that's a way to do it in just cards, and it's got that little like spinny, flippy thing, which is sort of dexterity, and I know dexterity can turn some people off. Sometimes it's just simply the like questionable nature of it. Like, did you give that a full spin? Did that spin enough, or did you just throw it towards so the arrow went towards my character and things like that. I think that's like the deep problem of dexterity for some people. It's just that it's not as cut and dry as I rolled a die and it said this number, or I draw a card and it said this direction. But in trying to reduce the components, I went with the spinny thing. It's one card. Spin it and toss it. And that's it. That's where I had to kind of give myself a second challenge on this one because it was hard. So I'm curious if you can come up with something for I couldn't even say it. Parlous. Full of danger or risk. So thanks for joining me in another week of Design Diary. We've got Dave Chalker up this weekend. Dave Chalker is a designer that I've followed for years with his initial game Get Bit, and all the way through working with him at Button Shy on a game called That Snow Moon. So it was great to talk to him. He's up this weekend. We had a good chat, and I'm going to head over to PAX to try to sell a few more games. All right, I'll see you. Thanks.